Well, thank you very much, Nancy, for the wonderful and detailed introduction. 99% accurate. Yeah, well, the only inaccuracy, I didn't have a dump truck. I had an old Toyota Tacoma, but it was good enough. You could pick up like 16 buckets in it. And I did have a SCORE mentor. I talked to Alan Shaver before I got a customer. But anyway, I'm Tyler Frank, and that was a great introduction. Some of you probably know a lot, and some of you might not know very much about me, my background, and about Garbage to Garden. So I thought I'd start there. I grew up in North Yarmouth, Maine. I'm a Mainer, and I love Maine. I think Maine has a great entrepreneurial ethic. We're really have a good independent streak. Our state motto is "Dirigo, I lead," and we have I don't know about other states. I know this chapter of SCORE is really successful at helping entrepreneurs and helped me a lot. There's no place I'd rather be speaking than at a SCORE event in the company of a bunch of entrepreneurs and people who support them. So my background, I grew up pretty humbly. I mean, I wasn't poor, but didn't have tons of money either. And my parents gave me gold, though, when I was a kid, especially my father, teaching me that whatever you can imagine, whatever you can conceive and believe in, you can do. And so, I was almost delusional as a kid into thinking there was nothing I can't do. Like, I would be president of the United States. That kind of can set you up for some hard lessons when you meet the challenges in life. But it gave me an optimism that really has kept me going when things get tough. And that's something that every entrepreneur, I think, needs to be successful. I had some skills early on, like in sales. My father was in sales, and so I was in the Boy Scouts, and we'd go sell popcorn every year. And I was always the top popcorn salesman because he'd take me around diligently, and we'd go door to door. We didn't skip a house. I'd be like, "Oh, Dad, it doesn't look like anybody's home." He's like, "Well, go find out. Get up there, knock on the door." And I had to do it all. And, so you run into some people who are rude, even to a little kid selling popcorn. And, that kind of prepares you for, being a little fearless when it comes to sales, which is part of any business enterprise. When I was in 7th grade, I remember I wrote my first business plan, which was I was way ahead of Elon Musk. I was going to colonize Mars and have, it was a 6-month journey I figured out back in 7th grade from here to there with current technology. And you can only do it every 2 years when the Earth is closest. So I was figuring out what you could sell tickets for on a space cruise ship. And, it was going to need billions in investment. And it was kind of ridiculous. But I think looking back that's pretty cool to have even thought of that kind of thing. And then I think the second business plan I wrote was my application for Princeton, and I didn't get in. I got waitlisted, but I went to Boston College, which was a great school, and all I knew going to college was that I wanted to have my own organization. I like to build things. Even in high school, I taught myself carpentry, and built movie sets and just different things. So I just knew I wanted to create something. So I went to business school, figured I'd start a business, and I learned a lot about things you need, but I didn't know how I was going to apply it to anything. So I was kind of, I was a little eager to do something else. And so I left Boston College and came back to Maine and tried to start a company. I could skip over some details from there. I did have a business before that didn't work out so well, but I learned a lot through it. Let's see. I guess I could probably skip next to how I started Garbage to Garden, which Nancy went through pretty clearly. I mean, I had been working at Lee Toyota in Topsom. I left there. I had been staying in my mother's house recently, and then I moved to Portland, which is where I had no place to compost, and the introduction story was spot on. I mean, my roommate gave me the idea because it just didn't feel right. Composting wasn't something that it was like, this is my life's mission. It was just something that was like old hat. You do it every day. That's where your food scraps go in the pile in the backyard. I lived in the country. But in Portland, it's like, wait, I'm paying $3 for a bag. I'm putting food scraps in a bag that I pay for so it can go get incinerated. And then if it doesn't get torn open by seagulls on the side of the road before you mix it that far, but I wouldn't have thought to solve the problem maybe were it not for my roommate saying, if we could just put it at the curb and someone would pick it up on trash day, that'd be so much easier. And I was like, I live in Portland, and Portland's a city where I think a lot of people would like that. But I didn't have any resources to start a business. I had $300 in my bank account. I was working part-time at Black Tie Catering. I did have my own truck, but I was getting up there in miles, and I just didn't have a lot to lose. So I figured, what the heck, let's go try it out. And I remember when she said to me, I wish we could just do this. I was like, well, that's great. We're going to do that. I'm going to start a business that does that right now. And she's like, what? Are you serious? It's like, yeah. And I literally did drop I didn't think about another thing. Something about me is I've always been very single-minded. Whatever I'm onto, I just think about nothing else. And that is, I think, a good trait for an entrepreneur as well. So 6 weeks later, I went out to a First Friday Art Walk. It was like, I thought there was no time for a business plan, It was like, it felt like if I don't do this, somebody is going to do it. And it's such a good idea. Nobody's doing this at all. So I just, went and tried it out. And now, I guess, for those that don't know, Garbage to Garden, as Nancy said, we have 8,000 households we pick up from in Maine. And that's probably about 20,000 people that chuck it in the bucket. So that's a big impact. We bring 20 tons a day to Benson Farm in Gorham that was previously going to landfills and incinerators. We also do, composting for events and for businesses. We wanted composting to be an option everywhere. We service most of the school districts in the area. Some of you might have just seen in the news that South Portland had a pilot program, and now they're making a citywide composting program for all the residents that want to participate and get a cart and either pay a reduced rate for us to pick it up or use 4 different free drop-off locations. We service drop-off locations for cities. We service, all the schools in South Portland, Scarborough, Falmouth, Cumberland. There's more. I don't need to list them all, I guess. Restaurants. And we're not the only one in the space, which keeps it fun. We have 2 other companies that also pick up from restaurants. So I think that while the nationwide recycling rate for organics is like 3%, something dismal, that in Portland, thanks to us and other companies doing similar things for commercial entities, it's probably 25-30% of the organics get recycled. So, and I should have brought some bins today, frankly, because I was a little my appetite right before speaking was a little weaker than I expected. So I'm going to eat that after whoever's serving our table. And then with the events business, that's something that was originally just a promotional thing, but we found that events are very pop-up in nature, and they create 100% trash because you put a recycle bin out, who's going to manage that? And Kendall Hinckley, who's here, who worked with me for years, actually started that program, and it's blossomed. We now service we do events for 20,000 people, multi-day music festivals in Massachusetts, all the way down to we'll give you some totes for your graduation party. So I think that's having a big impact too. And so I guess the last thing that's major about Garbage to Garden's growth is our satellite in Massachusetts. I wanted to prove that it could work somewhere else in a totally satellite way. We've developed software to make it possible that we don't have to exchange paperwork at the office daily. And there's a lot of things that it makes easier, but basically we can have a truck and trailer and a tablet parked anywhere, someone to operate it. They get the route on the tablet, they have their containers and compost bags. That's the only part that we have to deliver on every couple of weeks. And then they don't even need a building. And so it's very easy to start. It's a low overhead operation, and we can go to where you can build route density. And I think that we're demonstrating it in mass, and then we're going to raise some money for the first time and try to expand that more nationwide even, but certainly across New England and then further in Maine. So let's see. I guess that's all I need to say to introduce what Garbage to Garden does. We've come a long way. We got a lot more to do, but I want to talk a bit about how I think entrepreneurs. This sounds like kind of a crazy statement, but I really believe that entrepreneurs are the most important profession. They're the most important people on the planet. And some of you might just understand what I mean and share that. But, the glass you're drinking out of, the car you drove here today, your favorite coffee, your favorite, someone just introduced me to compostable floss. I mean, all this stuff, it doesn't come from nowhere. I mean, someone had to think of it. Someone had to, go up against the challenges and believe that they could do something. And, there's a lot of risks. Most people don't succeed. And so why would you do it? And if they didn't do it, we wouldn't have anything. Our standard of living would be much, much lower. And so we really need to celebrate entrepreneurs. And obviously everyone here does. But I think that, they don't get enough credit, even in the broad sense of society, because you take, the pieces and you put them together and you make something that's worth more than it was before. So really, if you make profit in a business, that's the profit is the added value that wasn't there before among the parts that you put together. So the entrepreneurs are the only one that's really creating new wealth in society. And then, a lot of people don't believe in you. I mean, it's not that they mean to be discouraging or, they don't want to see you try and fail. When I told my mom, I was so excited. I went to North Yarmouth and was like, Mom, I've got this great idea. We're going to pick up food waste from the whole city. I told her all about it, and I was just so excited. And what came out of her mouth was like, Tyler, that's never going to work. And I'm like, geez, your own mom, who's supposed to believe in you? So I didn't talk to her for a while, actually. I told her I had to throw her under the bus and be honest today. But yeah, that summer I talked to Alan Shaver more than my mom. And then once I had 100 participants, after being to a few farmers markets, then I called her, hey Mom, guess what? You were wrong. And she's obviously incredibly proud of me and everything that we've done, and helps out a lot and always has. But it's the safe path is often the one that people want to see you take. If she wanted me to go to law school, that would be great. I'm interested in that, but I'm interested in too many things to not be an entrepreneur. But I also, I want to share today some lessons that I've learned, and I don't know everything. I mean, I've had 2 businesses, one that failed, but I learned a lot, so I still think you can share lessons from that. And this one, which has been really successful, and I definitely have some lessons to share there, but I think my perspective might not be necessarily for everybody, because I was willing to climb maybe a harder trail than some might be. I was 26 when I started. I have no children. I didn't have a house and a mortgage. There's some things that are important in life that you can't just sacrifice. But I was willing to, and if you are willing to, I think that you might need to be willing to take $300 and build a multi-million-dollar company with 100% retained equity. I don't know if that's possible without making some serious sacrifices and maybe shaving a few years off your life while you're at it, losing a few hairs. But it's not just about the money. There are things that make it worth it. I'll get to that at the end. But I mentioned I chose a riskier approach because I thought it was urgent. I didn't want to take the time to have a business plan and get all my ducks in a row and convince someone to give me some money and do it in a safe way. And it might have worked that way. I don't know. But let's see. Yeah, I mean, let's see, where was I? Well, okay, so actually what I wanted to share first was this is just something kind of fun. I don't know if it will mean much to everybody here. Some people might have seen this before. I was in a CEO's office of someone that I networked and met in the first year of the business, and he had this poster on his wall, and I was like, this is crazy, but I loved what it said. Maybe because I'm a little crazy, but I'm just pulling up this list of maxims to share with you that really kind of guided me through the early years, and people at Garbage to Garden have heard me say some of these things a lot. So there's number 1. These are just 19 laws that somebody came up with sometime. If anything can go wrong, fix it. To hell with Murphy. Number 2, when given a choice, take both. Number 3, multiple projects lead to multiple successes. 4, start at the top and work your way up. 5, do it by the book, but be the author. 6, when forced to compromise, ask for more. If you can't beat them, join them, then beat them. This is one of my favorites. If it's worth doing, it's got to be done right now. If you can't win, change the rules. If you can't change the rules, then ignore them. Perfection is not optional. When faced without a challenge, make one. No simply means begin again one level higher. Don't walk when you can run. Bureaucracy is a challenge to be conquered with a righteous attitude, a tolerance for stupidity, and a bulldozer when necessary. When in doubt, think. Patience is a virtue, but persistence to the point of success is a blessing. The squeaky wheel gets replaced. The faster you move, the slower time passes, the longer you live. So there you have it. Yeah, if anybody knows where that was originally from, like, they can let me know. But I just saw it and was like, I love it. I'm going with it. And so now I'll get to some lessons that I've learned. Are we out of time? All right, we're out of time. So one more. All right, let's see. I thought I was not going to take enough time because I really didn't have a lot of preparation. And I was like, I'm just going to talk and then be done in 5 minutes. All right, so I'll just save the explanation and just say like a few lines. People will make or break you. That's the hardest thing about running a business. Finding the right people is tough. Keeping the right people is tough. You know, the damage the wrong hires can make is bad. You got to be connected to people from the top to the bottom of your organization. Say yes and then figure it out. I think I've kind of made that point. You know, don't just say I'm not ready yet. Just go for it. And every setback is a blessing in disguise. When you think that, you know, death is staring you in the face, don't fret, because there's some way through. You got to have faith. And every single time, there's probably been 5 times I could tell you about where I was like, oh my God, we're done. What are we going to do? Every single time we came out stronger for it. And, you know, it was, I could have, you know, hanged myself or something, but it was, you know, I just kept going, and something came to me, some person came to me, some other organization, and and, you know, keep going up the hill. So keep the faith. And that's, I guess, going to conclude my remarks. So thank you all very much.